Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Dram Antique Society tasting. And tonight I'm going to do a full tasting of the Cadenhead September 2025 tasting set that I got a couple of days ago. What happens is every month now they release a pack. This one's got August 2025. I think it's meant to be September 2025. And this contains 6 whiskies with a tasting card which has tasting notes on it. And it contains 4 original collection whiskies which are to provide a showcase of a variety of distilleries from Scotland and beyond. And because these original collection are bottled at 46%, they can produce more of the whiskey and therefore, or bottle more of the whiskey and therefore reduce the price a bit. And then there's 2 Enigma collections, which are unnamed distilleries. So the 6 whiskies, which I'm going to do, they've numbered them 1 to 6. So I'm going to do them in that order. And the 6 in order are DAILUAINE-GLENLIVET. When Cadenhead name a Speyside, they always have the suffix Glenlivet. So DAILUAINE-GLENLIVET, 12-year-old at 46%. TOMATIN, 16-year-old at 46%. A BENRIACH-GLENLIVET, 12-year-old at 46%. An Enigma HIGHLAND single malt Scotch whisky, 40-year-old, which is possibly the star of the show here, at 44.5%. CRAIGELLACHIE-GLENLIVET, 18-year-old at 46%. And an Enigma single malt Scotch whisky from Orkney, again an unnamed distillery, 8-year-old at 57.5%. So quite a broad selection from Highland, Island and Speyside, which is one of the beauties of these sets. I'm a member of the Cadenhead Club, so they send me an email a couple of days before they send it out, the main sale, and you can get it easier. Last month I missed my email and I missed out on the August tasting set, which was the authentic collection, and there were some crackers in that, I believe. So I don't know how many of these packs they send out. If you remember the Cadenheads Club, and I think generally they cost £35 for these 6 whiskies. I think if you're getting ones with 7 or 8 whiskies, it's probably £40, and you're about a tenner for postage. So you're averaging about $7.50 a dram. They're only 2 CL measures, but for example, in this one, the Enigma Highland would cost you £450 a bottle. So it's a great way to try the whiskies, and if you do fancy them, you can then go on and buy a bottle. And also it expands your whiskey knowledge, and it's good fun doing a tasting. If you get a couple of sets, you could do it with a friend, split the cost. So first up tonight, we have the DAILUAINE-GLENLIVET 12-year-old at 46%. And this one was matured in bourbon hogsheads. You get a little 2 CL bottle, which doesn't seem much, but 6 whiskies in probably about 45 minutes to an hour is quite a whack. I'll try them and see how we do. So this one was matured in bourbon hogsheads, 12 years old, and DAILUAINE's new make has a light meatiness on the nose, so it's sort of Mortlach-like. It's leathery. There's some cereal and partially hidden sweetness. The palate of the new make is big and meaty, like gravy brownie, and it's sweet and thick, almost toffee-like, and it's quite heavy, and the finish is long with that hint of sweetness. So let's see what 12 years in a bourbon hoggies. You can see this is a very pale, light coloured whiskey, almost the colour of, and 46% natural colour unchill filtered, as all of these are. and it has quite thin tears, a nice tide line, but quite thin tears there. And it's quite fresh on the nose. And it's sort of apple crumble. And you get that sort of honeycomb, the centre of a crunchy. And it's quite floral, blossomy, icing sugar, marzipan and lemon sherbet. It's quite a natural DAILUAINE, this one. 12 years old, bourbon hogsheads. And the spirit does smell quite fat and mineral, quite fermentary and berry, but it's not void of fruitiness. That fruitiness includes pineapples and pears. What I'm not getting in this is no traces of oak, but certainly mineral, gravel, sand and flints. Lots of cut grass and a very faint whiff of sulphur. There's vanilla, quite earthy, fresh barley, grist, green bananas and fresh pancakes, and that faint sulphur that belongs to DAILUAINE style. We're not talking burnt sulphur or hydrogen sulfide. This is good sulphur. It's got bordering on soapiness, and I guess that's a marker. Waxy and paraffiny for sure. We'll try them out. It's like apple cake, candied grapes, salted popcorn. It's waxy and oily and almost like suety, spicy. And that's not coming from the wood. It's got a wonderful herbalness, quite a big creaminess, and litres of barley syrup. Maple syrup and acacia honey. Touches of lemon in the background that keep it quite zesty. It's simple pleasures but well concocted. More custard, a little lime, pepper and lagery, and some melon jam and apple liqueur. It's simple but it's very good. And the finish is soft spice, kiwi fruit, chocolate limes, mojito, and sort of fresh wood. It's long, waxy, grassy, almondy. It's a superb whiskey, this one. I'm going to add 5 drops of water to this. %, so 5 drops of water, probably take it down closer to the 40. And now it's barley and a farmyard after a heavy shower. Leek, aubergine, and I'm not being funny here, but almost like palm olive soup. Try them out. And it's liquid honey. or barley liqueur. It's full of vegetables, fruit peelings, banana skin, and it's almost grassy, but grass that you could eat. And the finish is medium. It's very good, with more green oranges, touch of sawdust, and sort of black tea, English black tea in the aftertaste. This is one of these characterful whiskies that really talk to you. It's not bland. It's like a peatless but not smokeless Springbank or Highland Park or Clynelish. Very textured, I would say. So I'm going to cleanse my palate tonight with something new to me. It's in a nod to the last distiller I'll taste tonight. It's an Orkney Bakery bare meal biscuit. So that was a cracking whiskey to start tonight with. I'm going to move on to the second whiskey, which is the Tomatin 16-year-old. You can see this one's considerably darker. Still got a little of the DAILUAINE left here, and you can see the difference in colour. This is the Tomatin, and this is the DAILUAINE. So the reason this one's darker is it's 16 years old, but also it was re-racked into Manzanilla hogsheads back in 2020. So that's 4 to 5 years in Manzanilla hogshead. And Tomatins, I've done a cocktail class at the Biodrome Festival run by Tomatin, and it does make a nice variety of cocktails. I can't remember the ones we made. One contained elderflower liqueur. I can't remember what the other one was. 2 or 3. The one was with the smoky, the Cuboken from the distillery. But Tomatin's new make spirit has quite an intense nose with fruit, eau de vie, poire William, and it's quite floral. The palate of the new make is slightly vegetal, suggesting there's some weight to come, but overall it's highly toned and sweet, and the finish is hot. So 45 years in Manzanilla casks as a finish should add distinctive salty, marine and dry notes to whiskey, along with fruity and floral characteristics, which should create a fresh, complex and slightly tangy flavour profile that differs significantly from other types of sherry finished whiskies. Let's see how this one does with its finish. And you can see immediately it's got thicker tears. Again, natural colour on chill filter. And it's very buttery. Verging on cognac, brandy schnapps, stroop waffles, a touch of banana. Also got a bit of sourdough bread and that salted popcorn, the saltiness from the Manzanilla. but there is fruit, mango, kiwi, apple pie, and there's quite a bit of tropical fruit with a small hint of pastries. I had a Catalan muffin for dinner, after dinner tonight. It reminds me a bit of that. I'll try the mouth. We get chamomile tea, orange peel, and milk chocolate with a touch of cardamom. Dried fruits, grapefruit, maple syrup, and a salted walnut. Barley sugar, very much the barley sugar. Vanilla, powdered sugar, apple, mango, peach cobbler and plum, and fig. Lidl's are selling figs tomorrow, I believe. Worth looking out if you've got a Lidl's locally. And it's a bit like the nose, yeah. Has a slightly thin mouthfeel. It's sweet, but not artificially sweet. It's quite a simple range of flavours, not especially complex. But there's no off notes. I guess this is a distillate-driven flavour profile. But if the cask is driving the flavour, it's done well. And on the finish, I'm getting pretzels, salted bread, caramelized brown sugar, and cola. It's slightly salty, which is typical of Manzanilla sherry, with a sort of warming brown butter. It's a sort of medium finish, ginger, apple, pastry dough. It's a little bit thin on the finish, but there's no off notes, no bitterness. I do wish it was a bit longer though. I'm going to try 5 drops of water in this. Quite sweet, this one. With water, rather than a dry old sherry and cardigan vibe, this has plenty of sticky date scents. It's quite dark and dried off, quite luscious on the nose. The mouthfeel is pleasant, but it's slightly watery. The taste isn't as pleasant as I thought it would be. There's some traces of date, hot Spanish days, etc., but it's all a little thin, pushing the taste more into the background. I think I'll avoid water in this one. And the finish again is medium, but it does leave you wondering what might have been had it been bottled with a maybe a few degrees higher ABV. This one shows plenty of promise. The sherry offered a lot, but it does seem a bit thin and timid. It's pleasant, a pleasant yet slightly frustrating whiskey. Another bit of the vermeil biscuit from ORKNEY. So we're moving back into Speyside with this next one. This is the BENRIACH-GLENLIVET 12-year-old at 46%. And this one was finished in Amontillado hogsheads. It's slightly lighter than the Tomatin 16-year-old, which we would expect, I suspect. That's the Tomatin, and that's the BENRIACH. So this one was finished in Amontillado hogshead since 2022, so that means 2.5 to 3 years in the Amontillado, which should instill an abundance of flavour into spirit. The distillery character, BENRIACH, would best be described as fruity, floral, with honey notes. And you should find at least a small undertone of those notes in every BENRIACH bottle. The new make spirit is sweet, cake-like, fruity with courgette and fennel, lemon, and a sweet biscuity note, and chalky. The mouth is highly concentrated with a waxy feel. Soft fruitiness leads the way, and then a dusty quality. It's quite chewy, and the finish is crisp and clean. It's malty with lots of spice. So an Amontillado cask finish should impart sweet and nutty flavours, along with notes of dried fruit, spice, and a complex, drier character compared to other sherry finishes. So we'd be looking for a rounded, complex finish with a pleasant, dry warmth. The cask interaction would modify harsh tannins and add depth, enhancing the whiskey's existing characteristics with a touch of spiciness and creamy texture. Let's see if any of that has happened with this one. And it's got fantastic tears. Again, non-coloured, unsugared filtered. And if you gave me this blind, I'd be starting to think Glenmurray. This is BENRIACH, of course, because I'm picking up the full banana sweets. Dates, ginger, heather, honey, and gorse. And chestnuts, and with a deeper sniff, I pick up some typical sherry characteristics with lots of sweetened raisins and dried fruit. I don't know if you know this, I've tried comparing each nostril, but I only found out the other day that our two nostrils work on different parts of the nervous system. We have one on the parasympathetic part and the other on the sympathetic part. And what happens is every half an hour or so, one shuts down and the other comes into play, and then they reverse. Quite fascinating if you study the physiology of nostrils and aroma and nose. I think this one is on the switch on at the moment. So yeah, I'm picking up some typical sherry characteristics with lots of sweetened raisins and dried fruit. I'm picking up Cointreau orange liqueur, which has been soaked in a sponge of a decadent trifle. Sweet, reddish fruit notes, pickled raisins, vanilla, cherry, toffee, and caramel. There's still a slightly strange smell in the background. It is in the background, but it keeps coming forward every now and then. It's like wet hay or wet grass, to which a load of cookie dough is formed. I think that's the Amontillado cask which comes through, because that's what you get from Amontillado. And there is something salty in there without really being able to get a hold of it. We'll try the mouth. Yeah, you get the vanilla, custardy, beeswax, honeycomb, and the stewed pears. There's a slight brandy-ish quality to this whiskey. A bit like grappa as well. Initially it was quite oily and packed a heavy peppery punch, but underneath that, the orange from the nose carries over to a sort of orange tart tartan served with oatcakes or bear meal biscuits. And the maltiness combined with fruits is coated in a sort of sweet syrup. You definitely have the Amontillado character. The sherry comes through really well in this. There's dryness, slightly bitter note, slightly salty, and a bit of umami. And the finish is cinnamon rolls, star anise, banoffee pie, tin peaches. It's a bit short and quite nutty. There's a prickly heat that carries on from the palate that just overstays its welcome for me, I think. I'll try 5 drops of water in this one. And you get a whiff of pears and tree bark, and something a wee bit farmy here. A faint smell of hay, and there's light smoke in the background, but very little, possibly barrel char. Oak and spice, more of the typical sherry seasoning and spice. There's a little bit of forest floor with moss, which all goes well with the wet hay aroma. Try the mouth. It's still quite sweet, a bit of pepper, which doesn't really fade even after dilution. It does bring out some more malty notes, which is good. Dryness, more fruit, more sweetness. Again, sherry comes through with its own character, seasoning and spices. And the finish with water is medium to longer lasting than it was without water. Spice, tannins, sort of sherryness, salty, some fruit, sweet nuts, dark chocolate, espresso powder. So this one had lots of nuttiness. That's quite a dream for. I should have done that before after I've done my overall. Yeah, I think that one had lots of nuttiness. It would be a dream for sherry though. It's a sweet and indulgent whiskey, but it's maybe just a bit too heavy on the Amontillado sherry influence for me, even though it was only 2.5, 3 years. So now comes the big one, I think. This is the Enigma Highland single malt Scotch whisky, 40-year-old, bottled at 44.5%. And it's the first Enigma bottling from this undisclosed Highland distillery. They do say it's an undisclosed Highland distillery with unusually high stills, which really immediately points towards Glenmorangie. If it is, and I think it almost certainly is, then it's the oldest Glenmorangie I've ever had. The oldest whiskey I've ever had is 40 years old, and it was a Glenlivet from Gordon MacPhail during an online tasting during COVID, which was about £750 a bottle or something like that. You could get 25 mils in that one, I think. This one we're getting 20 mils of. It's 40-year-old, been fully matured in bourbon hogsheads. It's a limited edition, small batch release of 636 bottles. Now, think of this. This retails at £450 a bottle. That makes the 2cl sample we've sent you would be taken in quid pro quo. It would be £12.86 in that little sample bottle. So Glenmorangie, the new make spirit coming from those very tall stills, has quite an intense nose. It's floral with crystallized fruits, opal fruits, citrus, banana and fennel. And the palate is sweet and intense with pure fruit and flowers with a light nuttiness behind, chalk and candy floss, and the finish is clean. So let's see how this one has fared after 40 years in bourbon hogsheads. And it's got a nice colour, which in this case is from age rather than cask, I suspect. 40 years, I suspect it wouldn't be a first fill bourbon, but we don't know. They haven't told us. It has nice tears. So it's a batch release, so I don't think this is cask strength. I think it's probably been taken down to 44.5%. Let's see how we've got here. And that is very old school. It's quite musty, brandy snaps, touch of ginger and almond flakes. It's got a bit of an oak influence, obviously so, but rather less than it's rather less than Glenmorangie's usual tense purity. It's like a softer old space cider, such as an early to mid-70s Glengrant or something like that. It's overripe apples, acacia honey, and then it's like a beehive, waxy, a little grated coconut, herbal teas, chamomile at the first. And then you get some tiny waxy spices, sunflower oil, camphor, shoe polish, and old embrocations, and old cigarettes, like that forgotten old pack in a drawer in a workshop. It's complex, with no aroma really standing out. But there are lovely notes of cider, Kunsttart, pears poached in sauternes, and croissants. And that's not a joke, because the owners of Glenmorangie are French. We'll try them out. You could stay on that nose for quite some time. Clementines, short crust pastry, ginger nuts, aniseed, grilled pineapple, scones, Earl Grey tea, biscuits, marmalade, milk chocolate, citron jelly, Cointreau, mandarin liqueur, touch of mint again, touch of earth. It's wonderfully rich and biscuity in the mouth. It's layered, cakey sweetness with a milk latte, milk bottle sweets. Cough medicines, old green chartreuse and mineral oils. There's a nice stodginess to the texture as well. The flavours are light and playful, but you get the sense that you could stand a spoon upright in a large glass of this. And you know what? You don't need a tail of ice cream. This is vanilla ice cream on the finish. Lemongrass, applewood, serrano ham. It's medium soft with roasted pine nuts, jammy citrus back in the aftertaste. Slightly burnt in a good way, mentally piney, and there's orange drops in the aftertaste. I'm gonna try 3 drops of water in this. I think it's really actually very good neat. It's charismatic, old school, rather dry, leathery, slightly dusty beeswax and furniture polish. There's gentle waxes, soots, roots and herbs. Touch of ink, black ink, fennel seed, caraway, Hessian. I was putting my bulbs, getting my bulbs ready to go down later. Hessian sack, olive oil, boot polish, dried mint. It's quite tertiary, earthy, elegantly drying and complex. You get more menthol, camphor, eucalyptus, pine sweets, and then you get a slightly burnt apricot pie, and even a sort of mango cake. And the finish is a good length. Lemon cough drops, Hessian again, candied peel, wintergreen, eucalyptus, sweetened medicines, and some savoury spiciness. This is excellent, complex, very elegant. It's singular, but it's unlike anything else from that era I could think of. I think it's very good, very charismatic, a fantastic whiskey. So we'll have another beer with a biscuit. So for the fifth whiskey in this Cadenhead September 2025 tasting set, we're going to have the CRAIGELLACHIE-GLENLIVET 18-year-old bottled at 46%. And this one was fully matured in refill Oloroso hogsheads. So CRAIGELLACHIE I do like. The new make spirit is waxy minerals, vegetable, radish, baked potato starch with a sort of light smoke. Of course, it's famous for its sulphur notes, which show up in the palate. Nutty, sweet, heavy beeswax in the sulphur. It's heavy and full, and the finish is deep and long, and the vegetable returns. So maturing in an Oloroso cask would impart deep, rich flavours and a darker colour to Scotch whisky. And you can see that this one is, it's not the darkest I've seen out of an 18-year-old, but again, natural colour and unchill filtered. So we'd expect the Oloros to give dried fruits, nuts, spice, or a smoother texture. And then the most commonly used for maturation of Scotch whisky, as far as sherry casks go, bourbon of course far outnumbers that, and Oloroso is known for their bold flavour profile that adds the nutty characteristics, fig and date-like notes, and a balanced spice to the whiskey. So let's see how this one turns out after 18 years in refill Oloroso hogsheads. So it's got a fairly thin tiers, fairly light tide line, and it's not full on Craigellachie. It's got a slightly struck match, a bit of gunpowder and some flints, but they not there. They're in the background really, being filtered out by my nostril, sympathetic or parasympathetically. And that leaves room for oranges and chalk, plus honey and raisins. And there's something rather steely and metallic as well. Bit of Dunnage Warehouse, stewed raisins, white chocolate buttons, and dammy beans. Quite fruity and clean, and a little more tea and leather. Chamomile, rosehip, hawthorn and cigarettes. Try them out. It's quite oily, leathery, dark chocolate, matcha tea, and pistachio. But it's the raisins that are winning it in the end here. And those raisins come with some coffee, walnuts, marmalade and ginger cookies. It's got a good texture. Praline, crunchy peanut butter, crystallized oranges and raisins, and drops of a sort of fig-based arrack and raisins. And in the background it's quite herbal, and you know, in a strange way that kind of saves this whiskey. It's all got those matcha tea ice creams that you find in Western Japanese restaurants. I think this one just needs a bit of time to sit with. And the finish is Christmas cake, lemon juice, peanut butter, milk chocolate raisins, and it's rather long, gingery, spicy, and there's some kind of curry. Given this blend, I'd be leaning towards the famous family-owned distillery in Ballindalach. And it's also got pepper, raisins and bitter chocolate. I'll try 5 drops of water in this. And now you get preserved peaches, raisins, chocolate and prunes, but that may well be the sherry cask. Like a good Armagnac, or maybe a cognac. It does need, a good few minutes to get maltier earthier, rooterier, and more savoury. And I'm sure that's the sherry cask as well. And on the mouth, spicy chocolate, black raisins, pepper, blackcurrant jelly, walnuts, coffee, and there's a bit of demerara sugar with a tiny smoky side. And it's still reminding me of the Red Door Distillery in Bangladesh. Chocolatey raisins. And with water, the finish is still long with tea cake and oranges. There is a little bit of roughness and some sugar. It's a very good classic modern sherry monster, I would say. Not quite a sherry bomb, we'll call it a young sherry monster. 18 years old though. It's so we're going to precede the Orkney with an Orkney biscuit. I did a tour and tasting at Scapa Distillery about 12 months ago, and they did show us into the warehouse, and in the warehouse, the first casks we saw were casks that were whiskey that had been distilled using bare barley. And of course, BENRIACH-GLENLIVET have done bare barley distilled versions. They get their bare barley from Orkney, so it'll be interesting to see how Scapa does it, or how it turns out. So, final whiskey of this evening is an Enigma single malt Scotch whiskey from Orkney, 8-year-old, 57.5%. So, this is their second Enigma bottling from this distillery. And of course, we know that Scapa is like hen's teeth trying to get some of their product to the indie bottlers. So this, of course, is Highland Park. And this one was fully matured in bourbon barrels from 2017 until August 2025. The new make of Highland Park, when I went to Orkney, I couldn't get into the Highland Park distillery because we're getting new, I think they were getting new washbacks in, and they'd had to take the roof off to get them in, and they were craning them in. So there were no tours. They had a shop in the main street in Kirkwall. And I did visit them at an event we had next in Wilpern Distillery in Thurso, Drams by the Burn, and visited their stand. I bought this supposedly distillery only 16-year-old Swallow's Return, which I haven't tasted yet. I'll do a Highland Park review in the not too distant future, because I do like Highland Park. It's new make, has smoke and citrus on the nose, and it's very lifted and sweet with fresh kumquat peel, and I like juicy fruit. And on the palate, the new make is a sort of lightly nutty, big spread of sweet citrus and fragrant smoke. And the finish, it continues to sweeten with a touch of pear. So let's see how this one's done after 8 years in bourbon barrels. So this will be close to the distillate, 8 years. Don't know what the casks were like, refill, second fill, first fill, don't know. But let's see. This one's actually 57.5%. I don't quite know the number of bottles it is. Quite thin tiers. Would I get that as Highland Park? Yeah, possibly. I don't know, you get some, it's like a tropical fruit salad. And a chewy toffee bar. And short crust pastry. Been quite active wood in this one, I think. Butterscotch, custard, croissants, sort of rich ale, and mashed potatoes and shortbread. There's a little maple syrup, and what might be the giveaway is you get a little heather honey. It doesn't scream Highland Park so far, but it is very nice. But the barley DNA, I think, behind Highland Park is quite unmistakable. And you do get fresh brioche, bread, beer, perhaps a few lentils, and touches of mashed potatoes. We'll try them out. I think this is Highland Park. I mean, what I'm getting on the mouth is papaya, guava, plantain, croissant, and syrup. It's quite fattish and orangey, with rather a lot of Earl Grey tea, bergamot, bonbons, and touches of ginger and oriental pastries. Orange blossom water and sort of honeyed water. It's quite assertive, lemony and peppery, and quite a powerful punch. It's bordering on violent due to the pepper. But then those citrus fruits step in, and they rather masterfully restore the balance. And you get gentian, notes of bananas in the background, probably from the wood. It's quite punchy, herbal and heathery notes. It's got quite a natural and quite textural sweetness, but still remains nicely coastal. And herbal and medical, and sort of ashy and lemon cake, which resolves everything. I would never get this as Highland Park in a blind tasting. And the finish is tangy, Himalayan pink salt, ripe bananas. It's medium low, fresh, lemony, bright. Try 5 drops of water in this. get Bordeaux, paraffin and chalk, and finally smoke comes to the fore, along with slag and ashes. Develops a nice juicy fruit edge. There's some fruit salad and juices. Tinned pineapple and coconut notes. Which is rather akin to gorse flowers, coconut on gorse. And a little heather honey now. And again, those bananas and herbal and heathery notes on the mouth, and the lemon. And the finish is long and a bit smoky, salty lemon, and there's a very, very, very faint Islay-like character to this whiskey. I'm not sure you could make a better Highland Park at 8 years old. It's a great age to quality ratio. There is a faint Islay-like character in this in the end. It's a top-notch distillate from a perfect cask. And I love the feeling of sunshine and freshness that practically climbs out of the glass of this one. So that's the 6 whiskies for Cadenhead this month. And it was an excellent selection of Scotch from Cadenhead. And I do like tasting from lesser explored distilleries. And I have to say the Glenmorangie 40-year-old and the Highland Park 8-year-old, from different ends of the age spectrum, are both exceptional whiskies. So thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed that tasting. See you soon.